So natural disturbances are basically good, yeah? But humans' impacts on mangroves are usually massive, most of the time permanent. Some human activities also cause chain reactions in which the impacts may be visible later on or indirectly, such as in the case of coastal erosion, subsidence, etc. Therefore, again and again, we must always reflect and analyze on the intensity, the magnitude, the scale of our actions and their impacts on these unique forested wetlands. It's not just normal wetlands, not just normal forest, it's a forested wetland. So we need to understand the basic ecology of the ecosystem as well. And the significant impact that we cause due to patchy development and careless planning is fragmentation of mangrove forests. Fragmentation is a major major driver of ecosystem degradation. It reduces the capacity of habitats to provide important services. I would like to attract you to this study. Actually, if you have time, please refer to Dale's, Brian Brown's and colleagues' research published in scientific reports. They conducted this multi-scale analysis using global estimates of mangrove density, as well as the regional drivers. So by understanding these, we can determine the type or range of assistance that we can provide, as there are different or variety of response mechanism in which the ecosystems will react. Forest fragmentation, especially mangrove fragmentation and compartmentalized management and jurisdiction on resources actually expose us to many issues such as marine debris. I think Dr. Frida has highlighted in the video in the beginning. So many mangrove forests are still perceived as the most convenient dumping sites. And while some mangrove estuaries are suppressed by the impacts of leachate, overflow garbage from nearby landfills, and mind you, this is an estuary, right? This is the hydrology is super important. We need to understand that because it will affect basically the whole downstream ecosystem. And accumulated plastic litter can have major negative consequences on mangroves. We may see this as I saw, but they occupy ground space and create unnecessary competition, deterring seedlings to establish and grow. Remember the gap image I showed earlier? So no chance for seedling to be recruited and to take root here. And then at the same time, they suffocate and choke faunal organisms. Plastic litter, marine debris also affect tidal flushing, causing stress on the ecosystem with maybe increased salinity, as well as chemical deposits from these plastics and microplastic. And also, in the case like this, these plastic litter, these marine debris could also promote the spread of mosquito and other pest and water-related diseases. So it's big impact there if you think about it. So there are good models and guidelines to be followed. For instance, this ecological mangrove restoration is introduced by our friends at Mangrove Action Project. Basically, the guidelines actually advise us to understand the ecosystem, the ecological condition of the site, the type of disturbance, the threats and the risks, as well as the changes that is faced by each particular site that we are targeting. We need to understand the hydrology, the sediment, biochemical conditions. We need to ensure seedling stock or supplies from nearby intact mangroves, for example. And we need to understand also project the succession, basically all the basic ecological criteria. So the advice is by providing and creating these conducive and suitable conditions, mangrove will naturally flourish. And the best part is planting may not even be required. So this is very important for all of us to understand. And note also that EMR, one of the key important objectives of EMR is the significant involvement of local and surrounding communities. Because bear in mind, they are undoubtedly the key stakeholders in any restoration project. They should be involved because they know their surrounding best, they know the history of the area, and most importantly, they are the immediate direct beneficiaries of the services provided by the mangroves. And other efforts are also being put by many organizations to increase knowledge and supports on mangrove, on how to restore them. For example, this one, the Blue Carbon Initiative came up with a method to understand what's the blue carbon, and then PEMC does their job also on understanding the status of mangrove and coral reefs and seagrass and salt marshes throughout Southeast Asia. And of course, the governance study there also done by our friends at WWF, IUCN, and many more actually. There are huge amount of references and research being carried out throughout the tropics. I would like to highlight some of the some photos that could probably inspire most of you. So in this area, actually, this is an abandoned spot of aquaculture pond. A little effort was put here in this abandoned pond. So the owner, by just breaking bits of the wall, tiny bit of the wall, the tides naturally carry the sediment, the water, and the seedlings to let them grow, and perhaps to take over the ponds. So that no hard engineering here. And this one is a very bizarre case too. No hard engineering work here. It's just a group of local communities and local NGOs. They gathered around one day, planting seedlings in and around these abandoned aquaculture ponds. And voila, you have this super nice design looking from above. And you can also see some canopy gaps here already created naturally. But then hard engineering may sometimes be needed in a very critical condition like this one in Tanjung Piai, the southernmost tip of continental Asia. So this particular location suffered one of the worst erosion rates and mangrove loss. So several years after the construction of these wave breakers, the sediment stabilizes, and no planting was done here in this area. So, but new natural recruitment was observed. So this is a very interesting outcome from these activities. I would like to quickly point out to you that that the protection of Matang mangroves for more than 100 years as a permanent forest reserve not only contribute to the sustainable production of charcoal, as well as other forest products and services. It at the same time actually promotes natural expansion of mangrove forest area. So by protecting an area, in this case for sustainable forest management, perhaps we lose the diversity, but we have economic income from there, but the area, mangrove forest area remains intact. So all in all, we need to be clear with the objectives and the missions of our restoration projects, basically. Ideally, I would expect mangrove restoration project to finally create a healthy, functioning mangrove habitat, an ecosystem that provides, regulates, hosts, and supports these multitude range of ecosystem services. And restoration efforts should also be strengthened together with other conservation and governance measures and mechanisms like payments for ecosystem services, carbon financing, establishing more protected areas for wise use and sustainable use. I think my friends later will delve onto this. And bear in mind, restoration is not a numbers game. Please, it's not a numbers game. It shouldn't be done as a one-off event or just a photo op. You and get recognition and go on the news. Then they all die off the next day. This is not cool. So it requires honest commitment from all of us. It requires us to strategize, to plan, monitor, and to work collaboratively. Of course, there are increasing understanding throughout these years, and more brains, money, energy, technology are being put into these. And yes, ultimately, political will and strong commitment from the states, from the governments, they are the land owners, basically. So with a strong commitment from them, these would govern the success of mangrove conservation, as well as to promote sustainable development for the benefits of our generation and for future generation. I think I end there, Frida. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you, Always very interesting slides with the super photos from your field.